Before we go into the podcast, I want to just talk about a business that I've set up with my friend George. It is called the Podcast Introduction Group. So if you want to join and be able to be featured on 24 to 48 podcasts to be able to reach an amazing audience, this is the place you need to go to. Podcast, being a guest on podcasts, is automatically establishing you as an authority and is able to build your personal and professional brand. We handpick of a bank of podcasters that we have to be able to grow your business and brand. We do 100% of everything that needs to be done by my team. You do not need to lift a finger. You are able to expose yourself to new and relevant markets by going on other people's podcasts. You also are able to create brand loyalty. People will love listening to you and coming back to your products or services, and it's able to increase your revenue. So if you want to be able to get involved, you can sign up quickly, registered with an account manager. There's an onboarding call where we target the podcasts that you want to be on, the type that you want, whether it's entrepreneurship, business, health, fitness, whatever it is. We then match you to those podcasts and you can start your journey. We have regular catch-ups with our account managers, and Google ranks you when people search for you. So when people are searching for you, you're able to see your podcasts at the top of the list. So if you are interested in being a podcast guest on multiple podcasts, we are the place to go. If you go to podcastintroduction.com and go and register your details, we will have a quick call with you, match your podcast that you want to be on, and we can then start this process ASAP. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Back onto the podcast then. Just one last thing before we go into the podcast. I just wanted to talk to you about the fact that I have a YouTube channel that has been going for quite some time, and I am recording and releasing all of my interviews with some short videos as well on YouTube. So please do check it out. YouTube on Absolute Business Mindset. You'll see a bunch of interviews there, all the longer format interviews and some short videos as well. So please enjoy that. And here goes with the podcast interview. Today we have Marty Greenbaum, who is a franchise educator, consultant and matchmaker. Hello, Marty. How are you today?
Doing great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining me today. We're going to talk about your career, your businesses, and the impact that you've had in franchise and franchising. So really looking forward to this. This isn't a typical episode. Franchising has popped up a couple of times on my channel after 391 episodes released. But it would be really interesting to get your perspective on franchising and how people can use franchising as their investment model, as their business model. So thank you very much for joining me. The first question, as always, the podcast is called Absolute Business Mindset. What does a business mindset mean to you?
Well, listen, I think that most people are looking to make their lives better. You know, America was built on, entrepreneurs growing businesses. So the mindset that I feel, and I've had this all my life because most of my life I've been an entrepreneur. So my mindset is whatever it takes, get it done, figure it out, make a win. And if you're going to have stumbling blocks, the people that succeed in business are the people that don't quit. So in my businesses that I had, and I owned marketing companies and one significant marketing company in franchising for years, and starting up several companies it's hard to start a business. It's difficult to reach success. It doesn't happen fast, but someone, that's going to succeed, it has to have that mindset of, hey, I anticipate those challenges and I'm going to overcome those challenges and push forward. So I think that that's what people have to have today to succeed. That's the mindset you have to have.
So what you've just inspired me is something that I have talked about on my podcast with the solo stuff is, as an entrepreneur, persistence and patience are the two key things I think are super important for running any sort of business. Would you agree?
And definitely. And you always have to be open to continue learning. Okay. because the marketplace changes all the time. Everything's changing faster than ever. So if you continue to learn and adapt and overcome, that's how you succeed.
Absolutely. Right. So when I was doing my research on you, I saw that you came from an entrepreneurial family. Your grandfather was in the printing business and your father was a serial entrepreneur in shipping and packaging. What do you think that you learned from them? Do you think it was a sense of that it was in your blood, or do you think it was that you saw how they acted and how they sort of run their businesses? Do you think it was like nature or nurture for you?
Well, listen, I picked up a lot from them. There's when you're a business owner, and you succeed and you have confidence and you're controlling your destiny. I mean, that's something to admire in somebody. And I grew up around that. And I grew up around my father, who was involved in many businesses through the years and always wanted to try something new, always push the envelope. I have a funny story I tell friends that at one point my father owned a water conditioning company, and he would bring me to his pitches, and I would sit in people's homes while he said, "Hey, I'll come with me, and then what I'll do is I'll sell a water softener, and we'll go out to eat." It was a common thing with us. So I'd go with him. We'd sit across from the table from these people, and he would sell them a water softener. We'd go eat. But he was amazing. My father was an amazing businessman, but even more amazing salesman. And it was just interesting to see that interaction. And I think being around that, I picked up a few things, and it inspired me. So
did ever your father say, "Actually, Marty, I'd prefer you to become a lawyer or a doctor or something like that"? Or was the entrepreneur, the business owner, always sort of promoted in your family?
He wanted us to be what we would be. He wanted us to be successful. He didn't dictate what I needed to become. I went to college and I was into marketing. So I studied marketing, and I've utilized marketing my whole life, but I've incorporated it into the businesses that I've developed. So he believed in education. He believed in bettering yourself, but I think he had faith, a little bit of faith in me that I enough rubbed off, and he guided me. So, I think that's, how I eventually got into business, and just inspired by my grandfather and my father.
So something you said just at the start of this was that confidence was key within sales and within relationships, or as an entrepreneur, as a salesman. Where do you think that confidence mindset, how do you think, so let's put it differently. How do you think you can sort of help someone that's listening to this podcast at the moment who's struggling with confidence? How would you sort of give them that sort of pep talk, that sort of encouragement to get that right mindset with the confidence?
Well, they have to believe in themselves, okay? And you need little wins to get to big wins. People, you hear, you got to walk before you run, okay? Things don't happen overnight. Again, back to the persistence thing. Mm-hmm. But you have to truly believe in yourself. And if you don't quit, you could make it. But, another thing that I've done throughout my life is I've seeked out mentors, okay? So in different industries, and especially in franchising, when I got involved in franchising in my franchise marketing company, what I did is I went to some of the great mentors in franchising, and I went to them and I said, "How can I help you out?" And I offered to help them out, and we built relationships. And not only did they teach me, but they also opened up doors that I would never have opened. So you have to be a little bit smart about it, and you have to ask for help, because sometimes the path to success isn't a straight line, right? But there are people along the way that will help you. And if you could identify those people and approach them in the right fashion and build a relationship and really give, first, be that first one to offer and say, I want to help you. They'll help you back. And that could grow into an amazing relationship that really helps your career.
Right, let's just put mentors to the side. I will come back to that at a later stage. Let's go into your 15 years as a founder, franchise marketing strategist with your company that you created there. So first of all, before we go into the actual business, tell me why you were attracted to franchising and what that looked like when you started the business.
Well, first of all, I grew up in a family franchise. So my family started a brand called Postnet. They're, competitors of UPS stores. There's hundreds of them across the US and globally, actually. And growing up in that business, I worked with a lot of franchisees. I worked with people that were trying to get into business, trying to build a future for their families. So I was inspired by that. But I was also attending franchise shows. Like I remember one back in 2003 where my brothers were at the franchise show in New York and I went to visit. And I had been doing more localized marketing. I left the family company, had a local marketing firm, but I moved into franchising in 2003 because I was at that show and basically saw all these different franchisors and talked to them and learned even more about their needs. And I said, you know what, based on my talents and skills, I could really grow a firm in franchising. It made sense. And that's what I did. So I spent the next 15 years building a company in franchising to help franchisors grow. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and that's kind of how it happened.
And from what I understand is, when you're a franchisor, you have to put in capital to be able to buy the franchise, and maybe from an outset of where we are today in November 2022, what is the sort of situation now if someone is interested in getting into franchising? How would people approach the sort of the capital, the what they need to do to be able to enable them to become a franchisor?
To become a franchisor or a franchise owner?
Franchise owner.
Okay. So basically, there's 3,500 franchises in the US. There's so many different options and so many different investment levels. Today, what I do is I help people find the right franchise for them, that perfect fit franchise, or as close as we could get to it. But people are looking into franchising for many reasons. Let me touch on that real quick, and then I'll get to your question. People are looking into franchising because they've worked at their corporate job for years and they're tired of it. They're tired of making other people money, or they're tired of having a limitation on their income, or they're tired of their boss, or they're just sick of their job and want to do something else because all their lives they dreamed about being a business owner. Or some of them even say, you know what, I'm getting older and I haven't saved up enough for retirement. And then there's those people that, have children and know how difficult it is nowadays to, find careers and grow and are worried about what their children are going to do and be, and want to build a business for their children. So, franchising allows people to get into a business that maybe they've never been in before. And it provides the support, the training, technology, marketing. It's rather turnkey. It's not easy, but when you compare it to, let's say, starting your own business, 80% of traditional business owners that start an independent business will fail within 5 years. But franchising enables people people to actually succeed at 2 to 3 times stronger than going alone. So because of franchise success rates, franchising is smart to do. Now, because of the different investment levels, if you're looking to find a business or a franchise, there's a lot of factors that have to come into play. Investment level, how much you could get a loan for, and that's a whole nother topic, right? And what you may have some passion, what business is going to help you reach your goals, and it's important to define those goals up front. So I know I talked about a lot. I hope I covered it, but I know I covered a lot of ground for you.
No, that's fine. That's absolutely perfect. And we will talk a lot more about your role as a franchise educator, consultant, and matchmaker. But I just want to keep on the thread of your 15 years in when you were a founder of a marketing franchise. So you had your experience, you trained in marketing, you had the education on that. You then found the franchise that you thought was going to work for you. What's day one for you starting that business?
My franchise marketing agency, I was actually referred by my brother to a major franchisor called Service Brands International. They had, I believe, 6 brands at the time: Molly Maid, Mr. Handyman, 1-800 Dry Cleaning, a brand called Ducks, and several others. But basically, what I did as a franchise marketing expert, and through the years, by the way, I worked with over 120 franchisors. I was at hundreds of franchising events. I became a leading expert in helping franchisors market their business and expand across the U.S., basically helping franchisors find franchisees. So in franchise marketing, there's, I'm going to say, 2 sides of it. There's consumer marketing, where franchisors are helping their franchisees find customers. So if they had 300 stores nationwide, they need to develop strategies and implement strategies around growing their customer base and helping franchisees succeed. Okay. And develop things like websites and various marketing tools and so on. On the franchise development side, there's a need to find qualified franchisees, and all franchisors want to grow. So I specialize more so on the franchise development side. So it's funny, in my career, for most of my career, I was focused on helping franchisors find franchisees. 4 years ago, I became a franchise consultant. Now I help franchisees find the right franchise.
Right. And so you worked there for 15 years in the franchise marketing, and then you took on a role at franchise consulting company, which in your own words, you transitioned from a franchise marketing specialist to a skilled franchise consultant. What was that transition like for you?
Well, listen, I'm 59 years old, and you get to a point in life, and this resonates with a lot of clients I work with. A lot of people that are looking to transition, you get to a point in life where if you've been doing something so long, and I was spending a lot of time on the road at franchise headquarters. Some of my clients included like Ben & Jerry's and Smoothie King and Hertz Rent-A-Car and Remax and Fast Signs and Famous David's Barbecue, and the list goes on. But, I was traveling, and I was tired of traveling. I have 4 teenage boys, and they were a little younger then. And, the transition just made sense because actually what ended up happening, a friend of mine shared with me, and opened my eyes to becoming a franchise consultant. I knew of that. Actually, I worked with some of the big franchise consultant networks. They were my clients in the past. So I took a deeper dive in learning about it, and I decided, you know what? I don't want to travel anymore. I don't want to do marketing anymore. You get to that point where you just need a change and change your life. And that's what I did. And I'm glad I did, because I love what I do now. I love helping people figure out their lives. I help them find the right fit franchise. And, listen, I'm not here to sell anybody a franchise. I don't do that. I don't sell anything. I'm a matchmaker. I kind of work like a real estate agent of franchising, but I'm a matchmaker. So, when somebody finds that right business and they're all excited, and I have a guy right now is, on the edge of, getting into, 3 units of a specific franchise, they get excited, because here's the thing. let me share this one last point. I know I'm running on a little bit, but
No, go for it.
listen, when you're in your mid to late 50s, and if you're in that place where you don't know what you want to do moving forward, that's a tough place to be in.
Mm.
Because if you think, well, maybe I go back to work, but you know what? People get, at this age, there's no job security. I'm sorry, right? You could start a job in 2 years, get fired. But if you build something, and you're your own boss, I mean, it makes sense. So I love helping people get to that point. And, we're very careful, trust me, very careful. And what we pick for, what I pick for someone, it's got to be very realistic. I just don't pick anything. I just don't, I really get to know my clients and understand, what they may be successful at.
Yeah, so I actually have a business where I'm a real estate wholesaler, is what you guys would call in the US. And understanding your clients is super important. And I see a lot of parallels of understanding their criteria. What's the important things? What's going to drive them to be successful for an investment and stuff. So I can see a lot of sort of parallels between the two. But what I wanted to ask you is, how does franchising work in as a recession-proofed business model?
Well, listen, we're in a really peculiar place in American history right now. There's a lot of uncertainty, right? So prices are going up with inflation, interest rates are going up. A lot of people that are going into franchising, they're going into it seeking recession proof, and they're trying to do it as smart as possible too. But listen, there's certain categories I would say that are more recession proof than others. Okay. So I'll share a couple with you.
Sure.
So one of those, let's talk about service companies, home service companies, right? So right now, real estate is slowing down because the interest rates are going up.
Yep.
And the people that have homes are not going to buy bigger homes. They're going to make their existing homes look better. They're going to probably do some renovations. Maybe they put in new flooring. Maybe they remodel something. Maybe they remodel their garage. But a lot of these service companies, not just like home services, but think about this. Your washer and dryer may still break. The recession's not going to change anything, for people that need those type of services. They need their HVAC, their air conditioning fixed. They may need electrical work at times. They need to call a plumber, right? So there's a lot of franchises out there that are, really serving that community of people, homeowners that need services done. So right now, actually, and I read a report that's supposed to rise significantly. I wish I could remember it was very impressive that home services will actually do better during the recession. And when I talk about home services, there's a couple different categories. There's always the home improvement things. There's what I call home maintenance, which is cleaning and lawn care and pest control and things like that. That's maintenance, recurring revenues, right? And then there's, all the repair category. So that's a good sector. Another sector that's growing in these times right now is senior care. Senior care, no matter what, seniors need to be taken care of. And we have actually a growing senior population. Right now, statistics show that, the amount of seniors that are going to require care is bigger than ever. There's more people turning 65. I think it's like 10,000 a day turn 65 years old. And 70% of those seniors will need some type of care, whether it's someone coming in your house and, helping them there, home, in-home care, or eventually many of those people going to long-term care facilities. But there's ancillary things like just recently I helped a nice couple out of the Chicagoland area buy into a franchise that does the whole accessibility, the wheelchairs, the stair lifts, the bed, all the various, accessibility, making homes accessible, which is a neat thing. And then the one last I want to mention that's really kind of recession proof, if you think about it, is healthcare.
Mm.
And healthcare is this hot area in franchising right now. There's so many neat healthcare options, everything from IV drip concepts to physical therapy to like mental health.
Yeah.
Think about where the country is with the need for mental health right now.
So my question to you at this stage of what you've described is, so let's just take the example of senior care, and you might, and correct me if this isn't a business, but you might have a franchise business that looks after supporting elderly in their homes.
Right.
But let's just say I'm interested in doing that, but I'm not a nurse. I'm not a professional to be able to look after the elderly or senior care. Is there ever a sort of barrier that I don't have the skill set to do the practitioner side of the franchise?
Well, yeah.
They're going.
Well, you bring up a good point. Okay. Let me just say this. I tell my franchise my clients this. Okay. When you're going and you're becoming a franchise owner, be the owner. Don't be the worker. So if you own a service business, let's say you own a carpet business, you're selling flooring, you're not the guy who's going to install. Okay. You may not even be the salesman. You may be running the sales crew. In senior care, you're not going to ever be the caregiver. Okay. In senior care, you're hiring caregivers. Now, in senior care, there's different types of senior care. Okay. There is typical, like, compassionate care where you're going in and you're helping people with day-to-day activities. And then there's another level where you're providing skilled nursing services in the home. All right. So there's different franchises based on different investment levels, based on your comfort zone, based on your skills. You could still hire that component. You could get into the skilled nursing side of it. You have to hire that component. Okay. So the answer is it's not a problem. You hire the right people, and keep in mind, you want to always be the business owner growing and scaling the business.
Yeah.
Okay.
And would you say, I'm going to ask you an unfair question here deliberately, but is a franchise with a product or a service better?
I don't know if there's any concrete answer. It really depends on the brand and the product or service, right?
Yeah.
So it's about innovation. It's about being able to create a strong brand, create customer loyalty, create demand, create excitement around the brand. So I've seen service companies, so there's in franchising. Let me take a little step further for you. Okay. There are what I call retail franchises. And most people think of retail like, a store like Walmart. But retail is any business that has a store. Okay. So it could be hair care, it could be fitness, it could be, and keep in mind that automotive, people come to you for the service, right? People come to you for the service. If I had a Meineke Car Care Center, people are going to come and bring their car in. Okay. The service companies, as we talked about, the various types of service companies, whether it be home services, senior care, or there's a lot of others, you bring that to their house usually. You bring a service to their house, okay? So it's so funny that you would think if you get into a retail franchise because, you're paying more rent, people are coming to you, I can make more money in that. But you could actually make as much or more money in a service company, okay? For the right service. There's some really neat services out there that generate incredible amounts of money. Like roofing is a big service. Services that have big ticket items like roofing does, or home insulation, or there's these service companies with big, it depends on the service, the brand, the company. But getting back to your question, I think like I said, I can't answer that. It really depends on the company and what they're offering.
And the next question was like, what's the benefits of franchising versus independent business ownership? But I think you've said this earlier on, and I want to explore this area. You said that one of the advantages of becoming by going into a franchise is that you get additional support, training, and technology that helps you run the business and set up the business. What are those types of things? And I know it depends on the company, but what's the support you get at the start that's so meaningful?
Well, starting several businesses, as I mentioned, the fact is when you do it alone, you're trying your best to figure out what the business needs. You do your research, you do, but the fact is this, okay? Think about this. Let's say I get into a business, there's already 200 franchisees in the business across the nation, okay? Those are 200 minds working on this franchise, plus the people at corporate, okay? Franchisors continue to work on the what I'm going to call unit performance or profitability of the franchise. This all is going to work together. And let me share this concept with you. I don't care what type of franchise it is. Franchisors want franchisees to succeed. All right. That's the key. When you have a franchisor that's looking over every aspect of that business, refining it, making it better, why do you think they want it to succeed? I'll tell you, because franchisees pay royalties. Okay. If I owned the franchise company and I had 200 franchisees out there, the more they make, the more royalties I make. So, and if I have anybody fail, it's a stain on my brand. Okay. So they've looked at every aspect of the business. So when first of all, they've developed really great training. Okay. So when you join, you don't have to be an expert about this product or service. You're going to be trained. Okay. They're going to look for the right attributes. They understand who their top performers are. So when I help clients, I'm always looking at what's going to be a good fit based on your skills and abilities. Okay. Number two, they set up the whole business. It's very turnkey. So when people get started, they have everything they need. Everything's broken down. They know every aspect, and it's all broken down in a timeline. Here's what you do. Here's when you do it. Do this next. Do this next. Plus, on top of it, if I had an independent business, it's not likely that I would buy $1 million technology to make things better or streamline my business. I couldn't afford it. Franchisors implement the best technology because they want their franchisees to run very efficiently and they want to improve the customer experience. Okay. You have marketing. Getting into a business and then having to market it's very difficult. Franchisors often make that a lot easier, and there's some key vendors in the franchise space to help with the marketing, especially digital marketing. And then think about this. Having 200 other franchisees that you could become friends with and share best practices and say, how'd you get so successful? And that's what they do. So there's a lot of great benefits to franchising. But let me just say this. Not all franchise companies are great at everything. Okay. Not all of them are great at everything. So you gotta know what to look for, know what to ask, so when you're doing this due diligence and looking for a franchise, there's a little more to it. Okay.
That's what I want to ask you. That due diligence, that making that choice for the right business to go into, right franchise to go into. What's your sort of methodology? What's your approach? Like maybe treat me as a potential client. Is there certain questions you would always ask someone who's come to you?
Yeah. See, I have a process when I work with clients now, and the biggest thing is to really start with getting to know them, right? So when I work with my clients, I'm finding out, what skills and abilities do you have? And what's your background been? Have you managed people? Do you have marketing experience? Are you comfortable selling, right? We talk about goals. A lot of people, if you said, well, what's the best franchise for me? Well, one of my goals is one of my questions is, where do you want to be 5 years from now? How much money do you really want to make? What's that goal look like? Okay. Because different franchises will have different abilities to help you reach that goal. It may take you getting into 2 or 3 locations of a franchise, expanding and scaling the business if you have lofty goals. The other thing I look at, we talk about, is the territory. So what's going to work great in your territory? Let's talk about the marketplace, right? What's going to work in Wisconsin is not the same thing that works in Florida, right? And listen, I take a deep dive into franchising and educating people and helping them understand the nuances of the different types of franchises that are out there. Because most people that look into franchising are doing it for the first time. They don't understand how to make a judgment call on one franchise or another. And they don't often, most people that look into franchising, maybe, it's so funny. I get so many people that say, I want to own a Chick-fil-A. All right. But they don't know what that really means. So it's so important to ask these right questions, but also to educate people on the different types of franchises. And it's so funny when I do that with clients, I walk them through the different types of industries, the main categories, and we talk about it. And I share with them, here's the benefits of this, here's some of the drawbacks, and here's reality. Okay. And how do you feel about that? We go through this exercise and they rate those, and it gives me a really good idea of where their preferences lie, right? So if I understand their skills and abilities, understand their criteria, work with them to define their preferences, makes my job so much easier. Now I kind of have a roadmap to say, okay, they've got this type of financial wherewithal. This is what they're great at. These are the things they like. Now it makes sense of things. So that's kind of the approach. It's a pretty simple approach, but it's really about asking the right questions and making people, really understand what their goals are.
And I had Brad Sugars, who is the founder of Action Coach, which is a franchise company. And he said to me that he saw that if you weren't growing your business, you shouldn't be in business. The essence of owning and being an entrepreneur and a franchisor is that you should be growing your business and scaling your business. And what's your views on that? Is there a place for people that want to own, I don't know, 50 stores or 50 service providers versus someone that just wants one? And sort of, what's your view on that essence, which Brad Sugars talked about, was just growing is the only way of being able to run a business?
Listen, I know Brad. I've met him many times. Actually did some work and he was a client of my marketing company, Action Coach. So, listen, there are some people out there that just want to break away from corporate America and make a decent living, but they've done okay. They don't want to be millionaires. They're not looking at making $1 million a year or more. So, listen, I agree with that overall because I've always been an entrepreneur and share that, how big can I grow it type of concept. But the fact is there's still a lot of people that I work with that, at this point of their life, if they're in their mid 50s or later 50s, they're getting closer to retirement. They want a good business. Yes, they'll work hard every day and grow it. But there's a certain point where they're like, okay, I'm comfortable now. I want to continue this, but I don't have to kill myself to do it. All right. And then there's other people, like franchising is filled with what I'm going to call multi-unit owners. Okay. And franchise companies, they want top performers to grow. They, if you have a franchisee that's done very well at a certain location, they should be opening a second and a third location, growing their ability to generate wealth. And that's what this is about. It's about, there's a couple aspects of franchising. You're building confidence, you're growing something, you're generating income, but you're building wealth. And that's something that's hard to do, but franchising allows you to do it.
What's more important for a franchisor, entrepreneurship or management?
I would say management. And I'll tell you why. Franchising requires you to follow the system. Okay. So the reason why franchise companies succeed is because they build a brand, they have systems. The systems are there to safeguard really the customer experience and customer expectations.
Mm.
If someone is too entrepreneurial, it may be tough for them to exist within franchising because they have all these ideas of grandeur and they want to take their franchise into other areas that the franchisor would not approve. It's like if you owned a McDonald's, could you have a poke bowl? Could you serve poke bowls at McDonald's or burrito? Well, they have certain types of burritos, but you can't create. You can't take someone who's too entrepreneurial that they can't follow systems. Franchising is about systems and brand standards.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. So what do you see your business, your next stage of your life, the next 2 to 5 years? What's the ambition?
I continue to, what I'm doing, but getting better at it. It's funny. I'm always working on getting better at it, making sure that franchisees know what they're getting into, making sure that I'm matching as effectively as possible, learning as much as I can. I'm continually learning about brands and the specifics about brands. I represent over 600 brands and it continues to grow. So there's always something to learn there. And then really connecting with people. And that's one of the reasons why, I'm so glad to be on your show, because, the key for me is to connect with people and help them understand that franchising is a great way to develop more income, and grow their net worth. And for many people, they're looking for that next thing. And for other people, they're looking for something that they could own while keeping their job. So there are many people that look at franchising and say, I don't want to leave my job, but is there semi-absentee franchises that I could get involved in where I could still have my income from my core job and then, and yet maybe make another $50, $100, $150,000 a year. And you can. But I love what I do. And I continue to learn that's my ambition, is to just do what I do and enjoy life and enjoy my family.
Fantastic. All right, we're coming to the end of the interview. I ask the same 6 questions to all of my guests. They're quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer. They've been told to be a little bit thought provoking. What's the best decision that you've made in your career or business?
To become an entrepreneur as a young man, to have that freedom that I've had most of my life, and I've enjoyed it. It's not an easy road, but it's very satisfying. And even though I had some failures along the way, they were short-lived and I learned. So I would say that.
Perfect. What's the best piece of advice that you've been given?
Don't let fear get in the way. People let fear get in the way of making sound decisions. They haven't, I don't know where people learn it sometimes, but, I can't, I shouldn't, I'm worried. You have to overcome that. You have to learn and fight that sometimes.
This is outside of the 6 questions, but it's interesting you mentioned about fear. We are coming into or in a recession in the UK. We're sort of, the technical term is not that we're not in recession, but everyone, Bank of England, politicians are saying that we are currently in a recession. Fear is very much part of the media and sort of politicians talking about it whilst we're in a recession. What would you say from a business owner and a franchisor and franchisee? How do you handle that mindset of fear when it's surrounding you in the media and everyone else is talking about it?
Well, you just can't engage with that. You have to just fight it off mentally. You have to realize that for what it is. Okay. So, that's a tough question. I've been able to conquer fear, but I will tell you, you're going to have challenges with it. It will affect you, but you have to fight and break free from that fear. So I think, it could affect you, and you have a choice. At a certain point, you're going to have to either choose, I'm not going to let fear get in the way and what's going on get in the way of my success. I think it's down to the choice that you make and being able to recognize when it is just plain fear and that it's not really attached to reality. Oftentimes it's not reality. So you get caught up in that, and you got to realize and wake up like this is not reality. Okay.
Not most, a lot of millionaires and billionaires are made in recessions. That's when greatest wealth growth actually happens within recessions. I think that's what some people forget or are not told and not shared with. So it really is important. That's why I asked you about fear, because I think it is a massive barrier and sort of what holds some people back. Okay, on to the next question. Who helped you most in your career?
I would say my wife who's been there by my side and, been able to help me conquer fear and always supported me and believed in me. I would say my wife in business. Now, I've had some great mentors where I learned a lot, but, they're not with me every day. And I'm fortunate to have an amazing wife that has been supporting me, and she's a success in her own right. And so I'm a lucky man.
Fantastic. And what regrets do you have?
I don't know if I have any major regrets. I always wanted like everybody, you want to be a mega millionaire. Okay. But it's so funny. I look back and I say to myself, what's the value, or how do you judge success? And when I look at my life, I judge success not just, being able to be comfortable, but having people that love me and having a good family life and having those things that you can't buy. So I would say this to anybody who's looking at business and say, hey, enjoy your life too, because there's, that's so key. And, so my focus is finding balance, get to a point where you can find balance.
Fantastic. What are you most proud of?
My family. Yeah. I mean, really, my family, my wife and 4 boys, my family. I mean, they're great. We have a great relationship. Again, I'm a lucky man. I'm proud to do what I do. I'm proud to help people and educate people and perhaps save them from making terrible mistakes and investing in the wrong franchise. But, I'd have to say family.
Fantastic. What does legacy mean to you?
There you go. Legacy is, my sons now are these crazy group of entrepreneurs. It's neat, so helping them build something, helping them create their own successes. But that means letting them fail too, right? You got to let them fail a bit, because they won't learn unless they feel the pain of failure. So, but legacy is all about my boys. I have my 4 teenage boys, 14 to 18 years old. I have 4 boys right now, and they're all entrepreneurial. So
fantastic.
It's crazy what's going on in my house right now.
Amazing. And lastly, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
Well, my website is smartfranchiseinvesting.com, smartfranchiseinvesting.com. You could always email me at marty@smartfranchiseinvesting.com. You could research me on LinkedIn. I'm at Martin Greenbaum, LinkedIn, or smartfranchiseinvesting.com.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much today, Marty. It's been absolutely fascinating. As I said at the outset, we don't get that many franchisors and franchisees on this podcast. So it's been really interesting hearing your journey and also just really delving deep into franchisement. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. You were awesome, by the way. Great questions.
Thank you. Cheers.